You know, there's a fascinating math puzzle hiding in plain sight, probably in your refrigerator right now. It's a mystery that actually reveals something pretty profound about how our brains understand numbers. And I promise, once you see it, you'll never look at percentages the same way again.
Okay, so take a look at this. It's just a standard milk label, right? We see it, we grab the carton, we move on with our day. But there is a sentence on here that has stumped almost everyone who's ever really stopped to think about it. And I mean, even people studying to become teachers. So here's the puzzle. The label says 2% milk has 37% less fat than regular milk. Seems simple enough. So, what's the fat percentage in regular milk? Just take a second. What does your gut say? What's the first number that pops into your head? You got one? Good. Let's see how it stacks up. Now, if you came up with one of the next two answers, you are in really good company. Seriously, these are by far the most common intuitive responses, and they tell us something super interesting about how we process percentages.
Did you think 39%? It makes perfect sense, doesn't it? I mean, if 2% milk has 37% less fat, then regular milk must have 37% more fat. So you just add them together. 2 plus 37 is 39. In a study of prospective teachers, this was the single most common answer, but it's not correct.
Or, hey, maybe you landed on 63%? This one also follows a certain kind of logic. You know, if something is 37% less, maybe that's just what's left over from 100%. A totally reasonable thought, but also not the right answer. And this quote just brilliantly nails the issue. The researchers who studied this found that as soon as we see numbers and that percent sign, our brains just jump to a simple formula, like adding or subtracting. We do it so fast we don't even stop to ask if an answer like 39% or 63% fat for milk even makes sense. The problem isn't your math skills, it's something way deeper. So, here's the big reveal. This isn't really a calculation problem, it's a literacy problem. It's all about reading the story that the numbers are trying to tell you, not just blindly plugging them into a formula.
The intuitive answers we just talked about, they come from something called additive reasoning. It's the first way we learn to think about numbers. It's simple, it's symmetrical, and for a lot of things in life, it works perfectly. You know, if my friend is 2 inches shorter than me, then I'm 2 inches taller than them. Easy. It works both ways.
But percentages, they don't follow that nice symmetrical logic. They use what's called multiplicative reasoning, and it's asymmetrical. It's a one-way street. So as you see on the slide, 4 is 60% less than 10. But is 10 60% more than 4? No way! It's 150% more. The whole relationship changes depending on where you start. That is the secret. And this brings us to the single most important idea in this entire explainer. A percentage, that little number with the 2 dots, is completely meaningless by itself. It's like a ghost. It only gets its meaning from the thing that it's attached to. And that thing has a name. It's the reference value. It's the whole, the baseline, the 100% that you're comparing everything against. So from now on, whenever you see a percentage, the only way to really get what it means is to ask one simple question. A percentage of what?
Okay, so now that we're armed with this idea of the reference value, let's go back and crack this milk mystery once and for all.
All right, let's walk through this together. Step 1, we got to find the reference. The label says 37% less fat than regular milk. Aha! So step 2, regular milk is our reference value. That's our 100%. Now, step 3, what's left over? Well, if the 2% milk has 37% less fat, that means it has 100% minus 37%, which is 63%. So 2% milk has 63% of the fat that's in regular milk. That brings us to the math in step 4. The 2% we know is equal to 63% of, well, whatever that fat in regular milk is. And when you solve for that, you just divide 2 by 0.63. You get the answer. The percentage of fat in regular milk is about 3.2%. Totally different from what our gut told us, right? But it makes perfect sense once you see the logic. But what if you're not a big fan of algebra? The truth is, the clearest way to think about these kinds of problems often comes not from a formula, but from just drawing a picture. Look at this. This is an actual student's solution to a similar problem, and it's brilliant. They drew 2 bars, one for whole milk, one for 2% milk. They visually showed the fat in each one and then showed the comparison. This kind of visual thinking forces you to figure out what the reference value is and makes the whole relationship between the numbers crystal clear. It's math literacy in action. Okay, so this is a fun little puzzle, but why does it really truly matter? Well, because this same logic, this same potential for getting tripped up, is absolutely everywhere in our lives.
I mean, think about it. A 2% pay raise and a 2% pay cut are not the same amount of money because the reference value, your salary, has changed. When a store says 50% off an already discounted item, what are they taking 50% off of? And when you hear that the economy grew by 1% or a drug reduces your risk by 20%, understanding what those percentages are actually referring to is absolutely crucial.
The good news is you don't need to be a math whiz to figure all this out. You just need one simple, incredibly powerful tool, a single question that just cuts right through all the confusion.
This is it. This is the key to everything. The next time you see a percentage in an ad, a news story, a report from your boss, just pause and ask yourself, a percentage of what? If you can find the reference value, you can understand the real story the numbers are telling.
It's like the researchers behind this study said, a percent is sensitive to its context. It isn't just a number floating in space. It's part of a whole network. Being mathematically literate just means being able to see that whole network, not just the single number.
So I'll leave you with this. The next time you're at the grocery store or reading the news or even just looking at your bank statement, take a closer look at the percentages. Ask the question. You might be really surprised by the hidden stories you find.